Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about Mythic Zskarn, the boss you can no longer cheese and actually have to do legitimately. So this is a very difficult fight. It's going to get harder and harder the deeper you get into it, and it's just going to take a ton of pulls to actually really learn and get comfortable with. So with that being said, we're going to talk about some tips and tricks that I learned as I was progging this, and hopefully that will be helpful. So with that being said, we're just going to go ahead and jump into the fight. Just like most bosses, try to get in as much damage as you can right at the beginning of the fight, because like I said, the deeper you get into the fight, the harder this gets. So as much damage as you can get in right at the beginning, that will be good to try to shorten the fight as much as you possibly can. So the first mechanic that we're going to point out is going to be these traps. Make sure you're away from these traps when they spawn. Taking even one tick is actually a ton of damage, but then if you also have like something like unstable embers on you at the same time, you're almost going to be forced into using a defensive. If you take more than one stack of this, even just by itself, it's a ton of damage to deal with. So just be aware of where they're spawning, and it can be very difficult to see. So that's the first thing to talk about. We're going to get another set of traps spawning in just a second here, and I can show off the visual. It's going to be right here on blue, and it's just this tiny flicker. He does like throw something at it, but it is very hard to see. I wish there was a little bit more visual clarity on that, but just be very aware of your feet. Make sure you're not standing on one. They're also bigger than the scale pattern on the ground. It's much bigger than that, so make sure you're in the center of the next one over so that you're not standing right near it and getting a tick even though you're like off to the side. For the first golem wave, I try to stay on Zskarn because we are still under the effects of lust for like 8 more seconds, and I don't want to just like instantly get one down like below the threshold where it becomes immune, and then we can't grip them in. So I typically stay on Zskarn for at least a little bit before switching over. Though some people have, as you can see, were just immediately knocking one down, but that's okay because like if it's close to melee, then that's totally fine. Unfortunately, sometimes they will get gripped or they'll run out like this, and in that situation, you can just pick one and just full focus it. Try not to just focus on only doing cleave off of the boss. Make sure you're actually switching to the golems if they're getting super far away because they need to die. You really don't want them going over here and activating another trap. So I was just kind of full focusing this one and trying to get the interrupt if I needed to. I didn't in this situation. I also have this mechanic of the ember on me, so just make sure you're not moving left or right like this. You don't want to be moving over here or over here, but you can move forward and backwards. If I needed to get a little bit closer to get this interrupt, I could absolutely do that as long as I'm just extending forward. That's not going to get anyone else in trouble because it's always going to be straight through you. So if you need to move at all, just make sure it's only in a straight line away from the boss. So I focused that one. The other one was about to go down as well. I was about to switch over to it, but as you can see, that one is dead too. Another thing that I should be doing, and if I could do this fight again for the first time, I would have been using my AG. Like I use it here to help kind of like with the recovery because people are taking a ton of damage. A better way to use AG is probably going to be using it every single golem wave because that's when you're going to be able to get the most healing out. There's also going to be a tactical destruction during that period of time as well. So your healers are going to have to be moving. You're going to be moving, but you're also going to have more targets to cleave off of, giving you more healing. That would be the best time to actually use AG. I didn't put too much thought into it at the time. So that's one thing that you can kind of learn from my mistake there. Use that during that tactical destruction because there's just a ton of damage that the healers have to contend with. And that's a good time to kind of like to plan around that. Another thing you're going to notice is that I'm not going to actually use my Stormkeeper again until the next set of golems, just to have those things line up for the rest of the fight. I am sitting on this for a really long time. If your group is really good with killing the ads, then maybe you don't actually need to do this. But for me, like for our group, we were really struggling, especially, or maybe not in this poll, but in general, we were struggling with killing the ads quickly. So that's what I was focusing on, trying to kill those ads ASAP as soon as they came out. So I wanted to make sure that lined up. Another thing you're going to notice here is we are spreading out the burning embers. We have them pointing off the side. Just do whatever your group wants you to do with that, but it works out because it gives you this nice open area for your ranged, and you always know the middle is going to be safe for your ranged people for the most part. You still need to use your eyes and make sure that you're not just standing in a line, but it does mean that the only people who really need to be aware are the people with the embers, and you always have a safe space. So here we're about to come into another set of golems and tactical destruction. And here I'm going to go ahead and use my Stormkeeper right after this, I believe. Yep. And I've got this mechanic, I've got the burning embers on me at the same time as needing to move. And this overlap is really annoying. Basically, what you want to do if you have the burning embers, you need to get to where you're going and then plant your feet the best you can. So try to go ahead and move a lot right at the beginning and then plant your feet. Try not to be moving as it's going off. That's going to kill someone pretty much every time. I do manage to get some chain lightnings off there on those golems as I'm moving. That's a great time to use Spirit Walker's Grace. I didn't, but fortunately, because of the fact that Stormkeeper's instant cast, I was able to still manage to get my damage out. So as you can see here, I barely had enough time to stop moving here, and I noticed there's a little bit of space I can kind of move back into to make sure that we're not overlapping. So I just kind of tuck myself back in here at the last second, again moving in a straight line away from the boss, so it's not actually going to be messing anyone up, but just trying to tuck myself away to give people plenty of space. And now I can move forward and get back on the boss. So unfortunately my two-piece procced right at the end there, so I just throw that in on the boss. But again, at the end of the day, we just want to be killing this boss as quickly as possible. So don't worry about like absolutely trying to go all in on the ads all the time. If the ads are dying, then the ads are dying. Don't worry about like just like full on like trying to almost cheese. You don't want to think of it as that, because at the end of the day, if the ads are dead, then that means all of your damage can be focused again back in on the boss. So again, we're trying to keep this area very clear and not like pointing any lines or anything like this. And anytime you have a time like this where you can just do free damage on the boss, just focus in on that. Don't worry about too much else. If you need to be focusing in on, let's say, like the Dragonfire traps, make sure your eyes, maybe put it in a better place than where I have it. If that's like really something that you're struggling with seeing, make sure you know that's going to happen. It's also included on the weak aura packet that I think this is the limit one or something like that. But as you can see, it says when it's going to arm. Make sure you're aware of that. Again, tucking these things off to the side and keeping the middle area clear. And here comes this wave set of golems. This is where I'm going to use my Stormkeeper, and look at how perfectly grouped those were. Unfortunately, that first chain lightning, the ad bounced away, and I think I didn't get much chain lightning damage on the first chain lightning. But again, you want to get them as grouped as you possibly can. You can use things like I did it there, and you can. I'll just go back so I can point it out. You can also use things like your Thunderstorm to help with keeping the ads in. Thunderstorm's a good one to use because you're not worrying about DRing with the other stuns. So like right there, I did a knock up right at the last second. So you want to make sure you're actually using the knock up and not the knock back. If you take that talent, it can be a very, very good talent there, because a lot of people have stuns, but not a lot of people have knockups. And it also just gives it a nice delay. It takes them a second to start moving again. So it's something I would also highly suggest. So it's not just something, it's just not another knock like or another stun like most people have. Knockups can be very, very valuable for this fight. And again, making sure we're paying attention to those lines. We had one that was straight back through the group. You just have to be aware if that ends up happening. And then kind of moving back in. Because we also want to make sure we're not like way off in the back, because we do want to be able to bait these tactical destructions. And we want to help out with that baiting, because it's not just where the boss is anymore. It's where the greatest grouping of players is, or something like that. That's how it works out. As long as everyone's baiting in that area. So I'm going to be wanting to move over here in a second, because of that bait. So I'll need to move over, wait for these lines to go out, and then I'll move in a little bit more, I believe. Or not, but still, you get the idea. We needed to be in this corner of the room. Again, another set of ads, using that Stormkeeper, getting them all grouped up. And as you notice right there, the chain lightnings will jump pretty far. Zskarn has a big hitbox, so if you're not sure if they're all close enough, you can start with Zskarn to make sure it has a bigger jump radius, and then as they start going out to the sides, then you can start single targeting one or two. So right there, it was really hard to see. I'm going to break that down as well, just because it's important. If you see that one is starting to cast in between a tactical destruction like pulse, because these things are not doing damage constantly from the dragon heads, it only does it during the pulse damage. So what I'm doing, you can kind of see it on the actual target itself. This one's going to cast, and it's kind of far out there, but as a ranged kick person, what I can do is just take a step forward, and you can kind of see that I'm in range here. I'm going to get that kick and then immediately turn around and run away, just to delay it just that little bit more. I'm not sure if that one gets it off or not, but always be looking to use your kicks, because if you're playing like a range class, which is what I'm making this video for, really be on top of trying to get your kicks. Don't worry about kicking early so much than just making sure that you actually do it, especially during tactical destruction. If one's going to go off, or if one's starting to cast during tactical destruction, it's better to just go ahead and full send it and just get that kick off, so at least something will be stopped or slowed for at least a part of that. You really want to be avoiding letting them just free cast their trap activations. But like I said, we did not have any deaths on this pull. I didn't take any damage from the traps the entire pull. So this one was a very, very clean pull. Most of the time you'll get one more tactical destruction, but for some reason, like, we went from struggling and struggling and struggling on this boss to having an extremely clean kill right away. So the big thing here is we did a really good job of deactivating traps in this line. For this last tactical destruction, you would probably need to make sure that there's a straight line of empty traps here, so you can actually get knocked back and have a place to go after this. But you're not going to have too much time after this. This is very close to where you need to be killing it anyway. And yeah, it's just a very tight fight. So the biggest things here are, make sure you're paying attention to the traps. Make sure if you get any kind of overlapping mechanics of, like, if you take one tick of the dot or even 2 ticks, as well as like a burning embers, or whatever the embers are called, the circle that goes around you, you have to use it offensive. Just full stop. Just go ahead and use Astral Shift. Go ahead and maybe even heal yourself like 1 or 2 globals, because it is a ton of damage. Make sure you're using the Stormkeeper on the golems, and really, really watch your feet. I think I can't say that enough. Really watch your feet. Be on top of the interrupts. Don't be afraid to switch to the ads. All those things are going to really pay out at the end. But anytime that you have that free time where you can just focus in on Zskarn and do as much damage to the boss as you can, obviously do that. You really want to avoid like downtime where you're like worrying about just like fixing small bits of positioning. Try to be pre-positioned the best you can. Know where you're going to go if you get a mechanic on you before you even get the mechanic. Pretend like you're always going to be the person who's getting the mechanic, and then be like, okay, then where am I going? You don't want to be going, where am I going now that I have this? You want to already have that in your mind. But yeah, I think that's everything that I really wanted to talk about. Super annoying boss. Did not enjoy progging it. It was very annoying. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that we got past it. And hopefully this was helpful, and hopefully make it a little bit less annoying for you if you're progging this for the first time. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I stream at Twitch at twitch.tv/redmark. And yeah, feel free to give me a follow there if you're interested in watching me do keys. I might start streaming and raiding. I've been talking about that for like 2 months now, but I kind of prefer keeping raiding like just off stream, because I'm probably not more very interesting to watch in those situations, but maybe sometime in the future. But other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comments below, or you can join my Discord if you'd prefer to ask questions there. But other than that, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.